Welcome to the Left-Handed Bandit mobile paint party experience. Today's theme is going to be a unicorn cupcake. We're going to start by introducing our materials. We're going to need some green paint, some yellow paint, some blue paint, brown, white, black, and red. Now, my palette may look a lot different from yours, but as long as you have your paints spread out on a paper plate or some sort of palette, then those are going to work just fine. In addition to these paints, we're also going to need a smaller paintbrush of some sort that should be included in your kit, as well as a larger paintbrush or a foam brush. In addition to that, we're going to need a paper towel, as well as a cup of water, and we're also going to need a pre-plotted canvas as well with our cupcake theme on it. So just make sure you have all those supplies, and as soon as you do have all those supplies, we can go ahead and begin. So let's begin by taking our cup of water and our foam brush, swishing it around in the cup of water. We're not going to bang our foam brushes to the bottom of the cups, but we're going to lightly swish them around to get the bristle wet. We're going to tap it on the side of the cup, dab both sides off on our paper towel. And with that being done now, we can go ahead and get our painting started. We are going to start with some green paint. So take just a touch of green paint from your palette, and we're going to start dabbing green paint in the background of that cupcake. Now, as I'm dabbing, I'm turning my foam brush in different directions, and I'm hitting miscellaneous areas. I can work close to the cupcake shape. I can work further away from the cupcake shape. The goal here is to not cover the entire background with green, but different parts. We want to leave some of that open canvas space still. Come closer to the cupcake and get some areas, and kind of backtrack it and get further away from the cupcake. And we're going to do this to the entire background above this horizon line. We are not going to go below this horizon line right now, but instead we're going to just stay above it and keep adding miscellaneous freestyle spots of paint dabs to our cupcake. So it looks a little bit festive back there, which is the goal here. Take a second just to make sure you have enough paint on the back. We are using acrylic paint today. Acrylic paint is very fast to dry. It dries usually within 3 to 5 minutes. So we're going to mix in some more color to this before this paint dries on our canvas. We are going to go ahead and switch to our yellow paint, but instead of dipping a paintbrush in water, we're going to wipe both sides off on our paper towel. We're not going to dip in the water right now. And then we're going to go ahead and grab just a touch of yellow paint and put that on our foam brush. And with that yellow paint now on our foam brush, we're going to go ahead and we're going to find those other areas in between that green paint and dab a little bit of paint throughout the entire background. Again, working above this horizon line, above the horizon line. We're not working below right now. We're going to do our best to avoid the inside of the cupcake, and we're going to work in between those spaces. Kind of doing it freestyle, miscellaneously, super random. And I'm not going to cover the entire rest of the background with yellow paint, but instead I'm going to have a nice blend between that yellow and that green, a nice blend or a nice ratio in between these two colors. So really it's 3 colors, looking at the white background and the green dabs and the yellow dabs. So once it looks like a nice balance between those 3 colors, we can go ahead and once again wipe the excess paint off of our paintbrush or our foam brush onto our paper towel. We're not dipping it in water right now. And the next step we're going to do is we're going to take just a touch of white paint. We're going to go ahead and we're going to head back to that background above that horizon line. And with this remaining white spaces, we're going to take this white that's on our brush right now, and we're going to lightly dab it to our canvas so that these colors can start to blend together. So a couple things to keep in mind as we're doing this. When we are dabbing our color onto this to this canvas, that is, I'm going to hold my paintbrush in the middle, and I'm going to lightly press up against my canvas. I'm not going to press too hard. I'm going to be gentle and press very, very lightly, because that's how I'm going to be able to blend my canvas. And I'll show you a couple of things with that. Another thing to keep in mind is that, again, this is acrylic paint, so the paint dries pretty fast. So if you're having a hard time getting the colors to start blending, you want to just go ahead and touch just a little bit more paint. Usually the white paint is going to do everything that you need it to do. So with white paint on my paintbrush, and I got wet paint in my background, I'm going to fill in this entire background above the horizon line. I'm going to do my best to avoid my unicorn cupcake. So I'm lightly pressing. So we're just lightly painting. We want it to have a nice mix between green. We want it to have a nice mix between yellow and our white. So I'm lightly dabbing. I'm turning my paintbrush different directions. It's going to give me some different effects. I'm going to take my time as I get closer to the cupcake shape. If I get a little bit of paint inside the cupcake, that's no problem. Avoid the horn of the cupcake. And I'm getting this bottom left side. And I'm trying my best to stay above that line. And then I'm going to go ahead and go back in and grab a little bit more white paint. And if you need to grab more green or more yellow, you can do that too. And I'm going to continue to mix this background in behind my cupcake, my unicorn cupcake, that is. I'm doing my best to avoid the horn. If you get a little bit in the horn or the ears or the cupcake itself, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. We can always make adjustments later. I got just a little bit more to do down here on the right. Avoiding my line, avoiding my cupcake the best I can. Blending my colors. And now I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. Later on, if I want to go back and add more colors to this, I can go ahead and do that. But for now, I think I should just go ahead and let this thing dry. And if you want to paint the side edges of your canvas, now is a good time to go ahead and do that as well. I can paint those side edges. Those are going to add more of a bang to our painting. And they're real quick and easy to do as well. They're not too much work. All right. All right, so we have the top section of that background filled out. So what we can do next is we can go ahead and we can get our paintbrushes nice and clean by dipping them in our water. Remember, don't bang those paintbrushes to the bottom of the cups. Just lightly swish them around. You're going to tap them on the side of your cup. Dab both sides off on your paper towel. Get that excess paint and water out of your bristles. We're going to continue to use this same foam brush before we switch over in the next couple of steps. And with the same foam brush, we're going to go back into our painting and we're going to focus beneath this horizon line now. And we're going to still stay outside of the cupcake. We're going to do the cupcake in just a few. But for now, let's stay outside of the cupcake and focus on this area right beneath. So for this, we're going to need the colors red, blue, and white. So what we're going to do is we're going to take just a nice dab of red on our foam brush, and we're going to randomly, and I mean super randomly, take the bottom of that canvas and dab red randomly throughout. We want a nice amount of red. You still want to keep a little bit of that background showing, but We need a good amount of red to be able to be visible. And now that's looking pretty awesome. And we're going to take the paintbrush, smooth both sides off on your paper towel. Get that excess paint off of the bristles and onto the paper towel. We're not going to dip it in water just yet. We're going to go back in to our canvas and we're going to grab just a small touch of blue paint. So just a small touch of blue paint on our foam brushes. And we're going to go into that same bottom section and maybe add a couple of dabs of blue here, maybe a little bit of blue here. I'm not adding a lot at all. A little bit of blue right there, down at the bottom, heading over towards this right section, add the blue here, and then finally a couple of blue here and here. Not a lot of blue. Now, if you see in this area right here, it's starting to almost turn a little bit more violet, and that's the goal we're going for. So before we take it a step further, we're going to take this foam brush and wipe the excess paint off on our paper towel. Again, get that excess paint off of the paintbrush and onto the paper towel so we can go into another color. We're going to go ahead and blend while that paint is still wet. So I'm going to grab just a small touch of white, and with that white, I'm going to focus on all these areas that are not filled with paint. So anywhere you see that is white right now, we're going to touch white paint to those white areas. And then that's going to start blending together for us. We're going to see some violets. We're going to see some pinks coming into play. It's going to have some different effects for us. And that's the goal here. We want to have a nice blend of new colors starting to take effect. And that's where we're going to lightly dab the canvas, as we talked about a little while ago. Those purples are going to come into effect by themselves because of those blues touching that red. Those pinks are going to come into effect because of that white touching the red. And we're just going to lightly dab and let whatever blend come to life throughout this whole thing. And I'm doing it a little bit fast just because I want to make sure my paints blend together nice and smooth. You can take your time with this. It's no race. I'm liking the way that's looking. Maybe I want to go ahead and add just a little bit more blue because I want just a little bit more of a purple going on, which is starting to happen right around here. Do the same thing right over here. Lightly dab. A little bit more purple happening over here. I got a little bit in my cupcake, but that's okay. I can wipe it off on my paper towel, grab a touch more white, add some more white on there if I like. Up to you. And now we got that. So now, maybe touch up the sides of your easel and your canvas. Now we got our top and our bottom section filled in for our background. We can worry about the fancy stuff happening later. So for now, that's going to give us our background. We're going to take this brush and maybe we can go ahead and either set it down on our paper towel or just drop it in our cup of water and let it hang out for a few. The next thing we're going to focus on is the actual cupcake itself. Now, we painted that top section just a little while ago. It's most likely still kind of wet for the most part. So we want to find parts of the cupcake that we can work on without interfering with this wet background on the top and on the bottom. So again, acrylic paint dries very, very fast, usually within 3 to 5 minutes. So within 5 minutes max, these paints are going to start to become a lot more dry and we can bounce to the background if we need to. However, we got a lot of work to do on the inside on the cupcake itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that smaller paintbrush ready because we're going to utilize that paintbrush a lot for the inside of this cupcake to take shape. So I'd like you to take that smaller paintbrush now, swish around in your water. You don't got to bang it to the bottom of your cup, but lightly swish it around. Again, tap it on the side of your cup, dab both sides off in your paper towel, get that excess water out. We're going to go ahead and get started on this cupcake. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on the actual cupcake part itself without the frosting. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to paint that brown. I'm going to take a little bit of that brown paint with this smaller paintbrush, and with that brown paint, fill in a nice smooth area, nice smooth layer of brown paint. We don't want any globs of paint. We want a nice smooth application. Take your time with it. Now we got brown paint in there. So we can let that dry for now. We'll come back to that in just a few. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our paintbrush. I'm not dipping it in water, but instead I'm going to wipe both sides off on my paper towel to get that excess paint off my bristles. I don't have to dip it in water every single time, but if you like a clean paintbrush, feel free to dip it in water. But however, to get the best blending effects, I wouldn't recommend blending it in water just yet. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump to this bottom section of my cupcake. Now, even though I got a lot of green in my background, I want to still put a little bit of green in this cupcake holder. However, I don't want to put as much yellow as I put in the background here in this cupcake holder because they'll look too similar. We're going to make sure this cupcake holder is a different color than the background at the top or the bottom. Now, for this section, I am going to use green. However, you do not have to use green. For this part of the painting, you can be as creative as you like. Use whatever color on your palette of paint that you like. As long as you think it looks good, then I trust that. So I'm going to go ahead for me and use green. But again, if you want to use the same color as me, that's okay. But if you want to switch it up and be brave, I encourage it. I'm going to fill in this entire cupcake holder with green paint. And I'm going to go ahead and cover the black lines because I should still be able to see them underneath the paint. I'm filling this entire thing in with green paint. And notice, as I'm painting, I'm going up and down. And as I go up and down, that's going to give me more texture and more of a vertical look for my cupcake that makes it look more like a cupcake. So feel free to paint whatever direction you like, but if you're looking to make more of an effect, paint up and down. So I painted up and down, and I like the way that looks, but I think it can look so much better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe the excess paint off of my paintbrush onto my paper towel, and I'm going to take a touch of white paint, and I'm going to add a little bit of white here, here. Maybe I'll take some more white and add it here, here. Add some more white here, here, and here. So now that I have that white added, I can go ahead and lightly hold my paintbrush and flick my wrists and blend that white into that green, giving us a nice festive look. Now our cupcake holder doesn't look like the background behind it. You can tell the difference. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe add in another color. So I think another color that would look good in this cupcake holder is maybe going to be a little bit of, how about some red? We can add a little bit of red here, 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 and maybe a little bit over here. And we don't have to just add red only. We can go in and get a touch of blue paint if we like. Add a little bit of blue here, and maybe some here and here. And now our painting is starting to balance out a little bit. So we have a nice painting that's coming together with our cupcake holder, and the cupcake itself. I'm going to go ahead and take my paintbrush, and I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off in water, tap it on the side of my cup, dab both sides off on my paper towel. I'm going to go back into that cupcake, and I'm going to focus once again on this brown section. Now we painted it brown just a little while ago. Now it's dry to the touch, but it may not be fully dry. I'm going to add just a touch of brown here just to see if it's going to take, and it is. So I'm going to add another layer of brown paint. Now, in case I'm moving just a little bit too fast for you, I want you to remember that this is a virtual instructional video and that you are free to pause this video at any point you'd like, rewind this video so that you can understand different things a little bit better and, continue it at your own convenience. So that's the convenience of having this virtual experience. That if we get frustrated or if we get stumped or if something comes up, we can always pause it and come back to it later. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and start painting some other details into the cupcake. I'm going to take my paintbrush, I'm going to rinse it off in my water. I'm going to tap both sides off on my edge, dab both sides off on my paper towel. I'm going to get a touch of white paint. And while that paint is still wet, I'm going to add just a touch of detail, a little bit of white detail into that cupcake. It's going to give it a little bit more of a decorative flair or a bit of animation, a bit of a glow, some detail. And after I have that in there, I can rinse my paintbrush off again in water, get them nice and clean, and I can move up the cupcake. So the next thing that I'll do is, with a nice clean paintbrush, of course, I'm going to focus on this frosting section. Now with this frosting section, usually we see frostings of different colors. However, I think a color that's going to look best is white with some other colors mixed in. So I'll take some white paint on my paintbrush. I'm going to go to my canvas. I'm going to fill in all the sections of frosting. So I'm going to fill in this swoop with frosting. Nice thick layer of paint. Make sure there's no globs. I'm going to fill in this second layer of frosting. And I'm going to follow that swirl pattern. And then I'm going to move up to that third layer of frosting and add white here. Now I should still be able to see my white lines underneath. And that's what's most important, because now with our layers of frosting filled up, we want to add a little bit more detail. So what is a good color that would look good inside of there? My answer is blue paint. I'm going to take just a small touch of blue paint, and add just a swipe here, here, and here. While that blue paint is added, now I can go back and wisp in that blue paint, and it's going to blend with my white paint and create some detail. Notice I'm following the shape of the actual swirl patterns of frosting. It's going to help you create a more solid painting. Now I have a nice faint blue blend into my frosting. However, I think we can get a bit more decorative. I'm going to go ahead and grab a touch of red paint. Just a very small touch. And add just a little bit of red paint here, here, and here. I'm going to wipe the excess off on my paintbrush onto my paper towel. Go back in and lightly blend that in. And now, our color effects are starting to take effect on their own. We have the reds blending in with the whites to make some pinks. We have the reds mixing in with the blues to make some violets. That's how we get detail. Later on, we can go back and add more white, which will make that frosting pop just a little bit more. But we'll wait for a little while for that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our paintbrush and make sure it's nice and clean so we can go to the next part of our painting, which is going to be the ears. Now, to create the ears, we want to mix up a couple of different colors. And the first color we're going to mix up is a sky blue or a baby blue. And to get baby blue, we take our white and we mix it with our blue. So I'm going to take just a scoop of white paint, find an area of blue over here, and mix that white into just a little bit of that baby blue. Now, if we need a little bit more mixed up, we can just grab more white and bring it on over and mix some more. So now we have a baby blue. But we need one more color. So we'll take our paintbrush, swish it around in our cup of water, get it nice and clean by tapping and dabbing. And I'm going to look for some pink paint, which we have none. So in order to get pink paint, we take a nice scoop of white paint, find just a little bit of red paint, and mix it in. Now we have a nice floral pink, and we have a nice blue. With those colors and a paintbrush that's nice and clean in water, we're going to go ahead and fill in our unicorn ears. We're going to use our baby blue first. We're going to go into the unicorn ears and we're going to paint the outer edges blue, the under edges with the blue streak here and here, and that's one ear. Now notice that different parts of the black outlines are covered, and that's okay for now. I'm going to take some more of that baby blue and I'm going to go into the other ear and I'm going to fill the other ear in on the outer edge, bring it back around to the top edge, make sure I'm staying the best I can within these lines. However, but if I go outside of them just a little bit, it's no big deal. I'm going to go ahead and switch to the color pink. I'm wiping the excess paint off of my paintbrush onto my paper towel. I'm going to grab just a touch of pink, and on the inside of those ears, I want to go ahead and go in and add a nice pink tone to there. And I'm going to do that on both inner ears. Now we get our ears. Now, this next step is optional. However, if you like to do it, it's going to add a lot more funk to your painting. But if you don't, it's no big deal. I'm going to go ahead and take just a touch of white paint and add it to the inside of my ear on both sides. Add maybe just a touch to the outer edge, inner edge on both sides. And that's how we add a little bit more flair to our painting. Now, there's just one more thing for us to do before we take a break from our painting. And that thing is going to be to fill in our unicorn's actual horn. Now, and right in the middle of our cupcake is the unicorn horn. We're going to take a nice clean paintbrush that we just dipped in water, tapped on the side of our cups, and dabbed on our paper towel. So with clean paintbrush, we're going to go ahead and grab some yellow paint. We're going to go ahead and fill in our unicorn horn. Now, if you have any accessories at home, such as glitter or anything shiny with an element to it that is nice and crystallized, that is going to give you some nice bling to add to your painting. Unfortunately, this paint kit does not come with any glitter. It's something I'll definitely consider for the future. But for now, if you have anything around the house that could help, I say go for it. If not, it's never too late to add it in the future. I have a nice, solid unicorn's horn. Now, technically, we are ready for our break. I'm just going to add one more step. And again, this is another unnecessary step that I'm going to go ahead and add. You don't have to do it. It's optional. I'm going to take just a touch of white paint and add it to my unicorn horn on each section. And what this is going to do is, this is going to add just a bit more detail to our painting. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and go to the bottom and add a couple of white streaks to our cupcake holder. And that's going to do the exact same thing and add some detail and value to our painting. That's looking awesome. So, after our break, we'll go ahead and finish up our cupcake and add some more flair to it. But for now, your painting should look something close to this. If it doesn't look exactly like this, don't panic. There's different parts of the painting at the end that I'll show you how to go ahead and save your painting and even add some more flair to it so that it looks nice and unique to your own style. But for now, add a couple more brush strokes, and it's imperative that you take a break so that this canvas dries. After about a 5 to 10 minute break, and no longer than 12, that canvas should be nice and dry and we can go ahead and finish it up. So enjoy your break, and I'll see you in just a few.